Hello, I'm Jason and welcome to part 2 of my reviews of the Marvel graphic novel collection. Today I will be looking at issues 4, 5 and 6. So let's get straight into it with issue 4, which was The Ultimates Superhuman, written by Mark Millar, art by Brian Hitch. Now most of Marvel's heroes were created in the 60s, so all the origin stories and everything had occurred then. Marvel wanted to relaunch a range of books that told the stories from today, and that's when the Ultimate Universe became into creation with books like Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate Fantastic Four. The Ultimates was the last of their books, and it's basically their version of the Avengers. In this book we kick it off in 1945 as we see America's only super soldier leading an attack on a German rocket during the last days of World War II. We then jump to the modern day as we see Nick Fury putting together the team of Ultimates. Following events in Ultimate X-Men, with Magneto attacking the President, he's been given millions of pounds, dollars, to set up this team called the Ultimates, which will gather a team that will work for the government. So we get to see the team be brought together as he goes around and gets all the members to try and bring them together, and then we get to see their first mission. Overall there was some really good stuff in here. There was some bad, which we'll come to, don't worry, but I think we should start on a positive note with the good stuff. Mark Millar writes a book that is really steeped with a lot of realism, little things that make the book seem real, like our Iron Man gets in and out of his armour in this book is totally different to the regular universe. Likewise, the fact that his energy is low and he needs to recharge is something that you see nowadays in the book, but I can't remember back in the day seeing that. So that was an interesting thing. Also just silly little things like the fact that Giant Man, despite being able to turn into this big massive giant, he's still a scientist and he can't fight, and he gets his ass kicked the first real fight he has. So I like that as well, because it added that bit of realism, like, okay, yeah, he's a scientist, but that doesn't mean he can fight, even if he is a massive giant. So it was silly little things like that that really added that realism for me, and I'd be really interested to know, does that realism run through all the Ultimate books, or was that just this one? I'd be interested to find that out. I loved the portrayal of Captain America in this book. They sort of took the core of what made that character work, but they added and made him more badass. So he was still this inspirational leader with this sense of honour and duty, but they added this whole badass quality to him that, he could take care of himself. And then they did the same things with Iron Man and Thor. They tweaked little things so that they felt different, that you was seeing a different version of this character. But there was enough as well that was the core of what made that character work still there, that you still recognise the character. And I thought with those three, Mark Millar did really well. This was also the first series. I think Nick Fury had been in some of the other books, but it was with Ultimates that they turned him black, because in the regular Marvel universe he was white. In fact, when they made a film of Nick Fury, I think it was in the 90s, David Hasselhoff played Nick Fury. So you can see how times have changed. So this was the first book where they had him as a black man. And in fact there's even a scene in here where he talks about if they made a film of him, he'd like himself to be played by Samuel L. Jackson, which turned out to be a bit ironic. So yeah, there's some really good stuff. Also the art, I really enjoyed the art here by Brian Hitch. I thought all the way through was great. The bad. Whew, deep breath. What they do with the Hulk is utterly disgusting. It is the worst interpretation I have ever seen of the Hulk. I was appalled. I could not believe what the talent of Mark Millar did with that character. It just really, the book was going along nicely, and then it was like it fell off a cliff, and that whole bit with the Hulk was just rubbish. Likewise, some of the other characters as well, Giant Man, Wasp and Betty Ross, they turn them into these totally unlikable people that have nothing heroic about them at all. And I can understand that, yeah, he's going for this realism, and I can understand, you know, if you look at one of the most realistic comic books for me was Watchmen, and you look in that book and you've got characters like the comedian, who is totally unlikable, but he's one of the good guys, right? And I can see Mark Millar maybe trying to make it more realistic, wanting to show that not all heroes are good people, that everybody has different reasons for being a hero, and sometimes it just happens by luck the side you're on is considered the good side, more than about the individual. So I can see what he's doing, so I could kind of see maybe what he was trying to do, but the difficulty is when Alan Moore did it with Watchmen, though originally those characters were going to be regular characters from other books, when he actually got it printed, it was our new characters. So we could take a character like the comedian and make him unlikable. But if you're going to have Giant Man and the Wasp and the Hulk, they should be at least be recognisable to what they are. Yeah, like you done with Cap, like you done with Iron Man, like with Thor. You can tweak it a little bit, make it a little bit different, but the core is the same. But he just totally washes away whatever else they did, and just, there's nothing heroic about none of them characters, and you know, it ruined the latter half of the book. So with that being said, there's no way I can give this book a thumbs up, because there's just too much I don't like. But then there are things I really like, so I can't give it a thumbs down. So for me, this book's a thumb in the middle. If you look at the spine, I think I showed this last time, you've got the art on there, with as well as the number 28, this book is. On the inside, you've got the montage of some of the characters. You have Nick Fury. You then have your introduction, followed. They don't have the covers. I gather that was on the inside, because they reprint the covers later. You then have the comic, and there's some really nice things in here. That's our first proper look at Captain America, which I just love that picture. Like I said, I really enjoyed the art. There's some really gorgeous scenes in here. One of the other things about the book is they try to take characters that are in the real world, and they add them in here. Like you've got there the president of the time, George Bush, and while it might have worked at the time, now it just makes the book feel outdated. So, but like all the way through, makes the book does seem make the, all the way through the art is strong. I really like this in the back. They've got the heroes gallery, looking at like the ultimate version of each character as well as the original version, so you can compare them, which I thought was good. They've got an article on Mark Millar, looking at his career as a writer, as well as then looking at the artist Brian Hitch, as well as looking at the cover art. And then, as always, at the back you've got your further reading. So yeah, that one was a thumbs in the middle. They are going to do the next book in this series, our Ultimates. It's in the back, Homeland Security. So that's going to be printed somewhere along the line, but I was a bit disappointed with this one. But things picked up as I read this. The Amazing Spider-Man, Birth of Venom. I enjoyed this one. I read this one in an afternoon, so it shows I enjoyed it. The basic story is Spider-Man has returned from Secret Wars, and he's got this new black costume. And the costume can do amazing things, like it obeys his commands, and it takes itself off, or it can change itself into another outfit, or make a pocket, and you know, it does all these amazing things. And at first Peter thinks this is great, but as the story goes on, he starts to have more concerns about, well, what is this suit really? Is it a suit, or is it something more? And when the revelation comes out what the suit really is, and Spider-Man's reaction to it sort of kicks the last half of the story into gear, and that rejection sort of kicked gears to Eddie Brock becoming Venom. He was one of the most popular Spider-Man villains, I think, of the 90s. I think he became so popular they turned him into a hero. So, this was a good book. Venom's a good character. The problem with this book was the original story ran for 50 issues, and they address it in the introduction in here. It ran for 50 issues, and you're condensing it down to 7, and there's always going to be a bit of a problem. And while I think they hit the main point of the story, you sort of start off with issue 252 of Amazing Spider-Man. You then jump to 256, and you have a run then from that up to 259. You have a 4-issue run. You then jump to a Web of Spider-Man issue 1, and then jump to Amazing Spider-Man issue 300. So like, most of the story is okay, you get the main gist. But for that 4-issue run, not only have you got the thing what's going on with the costume, you've got the whole relationship with the Black Cat, you've got this revelation from Mary Jane, you've got the Rose who hires the Puma to kill Spider-Man, and then Kingpin of Crime gets involved, then the Hobgoblin gets involved, then Peter and Aunt May have a big falling out and they're not talking. So you've got all these different revelations, all these different things going on, these different subplots, but none of them get answered, because the main story we're focusing on is the suit, and sort of that story sort of jumps to other issues, and you're left wondering what happened in those subplots. On a side note, if that is any example of what the quality of the writing was at the time, I'm definitely going to go back and try and get some old issues or some trades of that time, because it seemed really great. So much was going on in them comics. It was just brilliant stuff. But then the jump, it does affect it, because you're left wondering. But I think they did as good a job as they could do with this one, so I would give it a thumbs up. The spine there, you've got your picture. Inside, as always, you've got your montage of characters from inside the book. You've then got Birth of Venom there. On the cover, it only says one writer and one artist, but in actual fact, they only write the last issue. But inside, they do a better representation of all the writers on the book. You then have your introduction as well as your story so far, and then they reprint in here. Now back to reprinting every cover, and they also have the issues. The art is very 80s, the art, which isn't a bad thing. It makes me feel very nostalgic, because that was the old era I first got into comics. So, you know, I really liked that. And of course, by the time you get to the last issue is illustrated by Todd McFarlane, so the art is very different to what it was, so you can definitely feel a different feel at that point. You also get this article, The Origins of Venom, which doesn't deal with like what's the story just been about. It's more the behind the scenes, how the writers and artists sort of come up with the concept for Venom, and sort of all of how that came together, which is very interesting. And then we also have an article about the writer, which again is interesting. And you have this brilliant montage here that I really liked of some of the alternate Spider-Man costumes he's worn over the years. And then you've got your further reading. So that was another book, like I say, I really enjoyed that one. Give it a thumbs up. After that first book, I needed a book like that. Next up, we have Thor Reborn, written by J. Michael Straczynski, art by Olivier Coipel. And this story basically starts off due to the events that had ended the Thor comic. Thor was, for all intents and purposes, he was dead, you know. And then he gets the call to come back, that the world needs him, and he comes back and he rebuilds Asgard, but then it's empty and he's alone. So he's going to find his fellow Asgardians, and he knows that they are in the hearts and the minds of the people, and he needs to find who they are in. So he travels the world, and he finds he's going about it one at a time, and you're thinking, well, why can't you do it all in one? But that's dealt with later on. That's a point that's put to Thor later on. And so he's going around and he's gathering up the people of Asgard, and that's basically the gist of the book, as he's going around trying to rebuild Asgard. A really enjoyable book. J. Michael Straczynski is one of my favourite writers. I back in the day, I was a massive fan of Babylon 5, the TV show that he wrote. And in comic books, I've loved his stuff. I read his run on Fantastic Four, which I enjoyed. I also really enjoyed his the first book in the series, in fact, Coming Home, which is the Amazing Spider-Man story he wrote. So I was chuffed when I seen he was writing Thor, and I did enjoy it. And some of my favourite scenes didn't even involve Thor. It was when the Asgardians sort of interact with this little town that Asgard's been built by in Oklahoma. I really liked the interactions, and the people in this village, in this town, were brilliant. You know, they were really brilliant, and the interaction between the characters was great, and there was some really funny stuff in there. On a larger scale, this book was just after Civil War, where you had the Registration Act, where heroes had to register with the government and had to work for or with the government. So you sort of gets addressed in here. Which side is Thor going to be on? That does get addressed, and that's really good. So yeah, all in all, it was a really good book. My only gripe would be the ending, in that the way it ends, the story doesn't get tied up and you have a definitive end. You don't. It just sort of sets up for the next bit of the story. So you know, you don't get a conclusion, which is a gripe. It does sort of leave you, like, you get to the last page and you're like, oh, I want to read the next bit. And it does carry on. If you go on Amazon and you have a look for Thor in books, you'll see volume 2 and 3 by J. Michael Straczynski that you can pick up, and it does finish off this story, and it is a really good run, and I would recommend it if you enjoy the book. So yeah, the art as well, I love. Olivier Coipel is one of my favourite artists as well, so I was really stoked with seeing him on this book. Inside you get that page. On the side, I don't think I showed you, it's number 52, so it's quite along the end of the collection. I love the new outfit they give him here. I think I like it more than the original outfit, and of course you've got all the people that worked on creating this book. You then get your introduction and your story so far, which this is a really important one because you need to understand why Thor and all of Asgard is dead. You get the cover, and you know, there's your first page, which is just an awesome first page. You know, here you get Thor sort of remembering when he was alive. In this other realm. This is, you know, here he is when he comes back to the land of the living. Each issue, you know, you reprint the cover, and there's some really great art throughout all of it. You do get to see a bit of a smackdown with Iron Man and Thor, which is really good. And also, the Destroyer turns up, who you may recognise the Destroyer from the Thor movie. So that was a familiar face to see turn up, which was good. You also get this origins page of Thor, looking at how Stan Lee come up with using Thor as a character. You get the variant covers that they did as well, and as well as a nice 2-page article looking at the artist, which, as always, is always interesting to see what they've done before. And you get your further reading as always. So this was another good book in the series, and I would definitely, without a doubt, give it a thumbs up. Yeah, there's the gripe, you don't really get a conclusion, but what's in here, there's nothing bad in here. It's just a joy to read, and I really loved this book. I read through it really quickly and I enjoyed it. So yeah, that gets a thumbs up. So that's me done. That's my 3 books for this episode. I will be back with part 3 soon, hopefully, fingers crossed. I will definitely be back next Friday with my weekly comic book review. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you all again soon. If you did enjoy this video and you want to see more, click the subscribe button, and every time I upload a new video, you'll get to know I've uploaded a new video. Also, beneath me there is a thumbs up and a thumbs down, so if you liked it, didn't like it, please just give me a thumbs up or down. Hope you all have a good week. Bye for now.